this one.
Marian Anderson, the famous contralto, did not take success for granted. We know this because Anderson had to struggle early in life. And anyone who has to struggle early in life is able to keep a good perspective on the world.
All right, so what's our conclusion?
Uh, Anyone who has to struggle early in life is able to keep a good perspective on the world.
Mhm.
Marian's famous contractor did not take success. Marian Anderson, the famous contractor, did not take success for granted.
Yes, because we're saying,
Okay.
hey, he did not take success for granted, and and it goes on to say, like, we know this
Yeah. So it gives you a hint.
because, yep, because he struggle had to struggle early in life, and if you struggle early in life,
Then
then
you're
you're able to keep a good perspective. What is the
okay.
gap here between our support and our conclusion?
We know this because the gap it's early in life. Anyone has to struggle early in life. Anyone has to struggle early in life to get everything on the world. I
So
think.
our conclusion is talking about not taking success for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we ever mention not taking success for granted in our support?
No,
No, what do we talk about?
a struggle, and
Struggling early in life
mm-hmm.
and able to keep a good perspective.
Yeah.
So we need to close this gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what could we say that would guarantee that Marion did not take success for granted?
We can say that. We can say that she.
What could we say about anyone that struggles early in life? What could we say about that? Anyone that struggles early in life, what?
Is able to doesn't take success for granted.
Yeah, if we added that, that would work for sure. If we said
A
anyone
struggle
who
early in
has to
life.
struggle early in life, struggle in life, does not take
Success for
success
granted.
for granted. So we'll just put success for granted. No. What else could we say? What could we say about keeping a good perspective on the world?
So if you struggle early in life, you and also if see what's going on in the world. So if you struggle early in life, you're able to keep a good perspective on the world.
Well, that's our premise. Let's just focus on the second part. What could we say about keeping a good perspective on the world in order to guarantee our conclusion?
So if you keep a good perspective and you don't take success for granted.
Yeah, if you have a good perspective on the world,
Mm-hmm.
anyone that has a good perspective on the world does not take success for granted. Do we either one of those would work, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's look at these answer choices.
Anyone who succeeds takes success for granted. No. Anyone who is able to keep a good perspective does not take success. B looks good so far.
Excellent.
So anyone who is able to keep a good perspective on the world has to struggle early in life. Anyone who does not take success for granted has to struggle early in life. For some reason, I like C too, but
Okay. We'll look at why they're different in a second.
no, I'm C, not D.
Oh,
Anyone who does not take success for granted has to struggle early in life. No. Anyone who does not take success for granted is able to keep a good perspective in the world. No.
yeah. So let's walk through why some of these are wrong, just as like a learning opportunity. Well, what would you pick? Okay, well, let's start with E. So E is saying anyone who does not take success for granted. So if you do not take success for granted, then you're able to keep a good perspective on the world. Why is this one wrong?
Because we're saying that anyone who does not take success for granted is just able to keep a good perspective in the world. kind of like anyone who does not take success for granted is able to keep a good perspective on the world.
We're not trying to prove having a good perspective on the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just because anyone that we're trying to prove that we did not take success for granted. So this switches them. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this one's wrong, which is
Okay.
the same for D. Anyone who does not take success for granted. So once again, we have not taking success for granted.
Mm-hmm. That's a struggle.
Has to struggle. Well, once again, that's doing the same thing. We're not trying to prove that you have to struggle early in life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So C, anyone who is able to keep a good perspective in the world has to struggle early in life. This is just connecting our two premises to each other. Do you see that?
Yeah.
We don't need to connect our premise to our premise. We need to connect our premise to our conclusion,
Or okay.
which B is saying anyone, so B is perfect. It's exactly what we predicted up here. Anyone who is able to keep a good perspective, which we have on the world, has to struggle. Oh, sorry. Anyone who is able to keep a good perspective on the world does not take success for granted. This one is our answer because we say, I need more colors. Because we say, because we know that Anderson is able to keep a good perspective on the world. So if Anderson can keep a good perspective on the world, and anyone who is able to keep a good, sorry, I keep going to the wrong one. And anyone who is able to keep a good perspective on the world does not take success for granted, we can conclude that since Anderson does not or does have a good perspective on the world, she also does not take success for granted. So it connects it for us.